What's going on, everybody? Steve here again with another skate park tour. This time I'm in Louisville, Kentucky at the Breslin skate park in Breslin Park. This is like a micro skate park, kind of like little skate spot built into a park, not intended to be like a full-blown skate park. It was built by Hunger Skate Parks a couple years ago, and it's really only about a mile and a half away from the big, giant Louisville Extreme Park. So this one's more of like a little skate plaza type thing, and you'll see there's not a lot here, but it is very street oriented. Can get crowded if there's more than like 3 or 4 people skating, but I think it's more intended to just be an alternative to the bigger park down the road. So let's check it out and you'll see what this park is all about. All right, I'm going to start at the eastern end of the park, or actually I'm going to start at the western end of the park with, first and foremost, this 3-foot quarter. Not very wide, but it's a point to really start your run, drop into it, or do some lip tricks. Obviously not really wide enough to do grinds across, more intended for stalls, but it's a starting point. And then as we get into the park, you'll see kind of how the lines work for this sort of thing. So we'll move forward, and first you can see the round flat bar here that is about 14 or 15 inches tall. So it is on the taller side. And this rail is probably about 25 feet long or so. So you do get a nice long slider grind depending on what you're doing, coming off of, again, that quarter pipe. And then to the right of the box, or excuse me, to the right of the rail, you've got a box, ledge, whatever you want to call it. This thing is about 10 feet long, slightly shorter than the flat bar. This is probably more like 14 inches tall. And the nice thing about this, what I really like when parks do this, is it's got a metal edge on the side, but the top is still concrete. So it does feel like a real street ledge, but the grind is a lot smoother. So that's a nice aspect of this particular skate park. So now as we move to the center of this skate park, you're going to see one side is going to be curb and like bank style ledge stuff. The other side is going to be more of like your quarter pipe transition with a sculpture in the middle. First, I'll talk about the curb sections. So you've got these bank to curbs that are symmetrical on either side. These curbs are right on curbs for sure. Skate up the bank and then do stuff down them. They are about, I would say, 16 to 18 feet long. Pretty standard curb height, not too extreme or extremely high or anything like that. So it's good for slappies and tricks like that. And then in between the two curbs, you're going to see a curved bank to ledge. So you can skate this coming from either direction, really. But this bank to ledge is only about 12 inches tall or so, and you can see it has a C curve to it. Probably too wide to do like a complete slide on the top of it, but I guess if you have a wider wheelbase, you could probably do that. Obviously, coping's only on the left side here, so not really intended to, grind on the other side of it. And then as we go over to the other side, you can see that symmetrical bank to curb going in the opposite direction. One thing I always applaud Hunger skate parks for in their designs is their desire to incorporate something unique as like a skatable structure or sculpture in each of their parks. In the case of this particular one, you've got this mosaic egg thing in the middle of a volcano quarter pipe. So the positives are it's a cool thing to look at. I think it probably means that the park is a little bit more accepted by locals for being here. Maybe the downside is you obviously can't do anything across the volcano, and you can't really camp out on the deck either as far as stalls are concerned, because it does sort of bow out and wants to push you off. But I think it's still kind of interesting and cool to look at. Since I'm not a big transition skater, I'm not really bummed by what it may take away as far as transition skating is concerned. Now I mentioned the quarter pipe sections, so obviously these have a little bit more of a quarter pipe radius to them, but the coping goes straight down into the ground, so it is ride on a bowl or whatever you want to call it, rideable. You can ride onto it. Um, but the quarter pipes themselves are probably a max of 3.5, maybe 4 feet tall at their highest point, which is over here. You can see there is pool coping across the top part of it. So it does provide kind of an interesting grind sound and stuff like that. Denser material, I think that's like a, maybe like a porcelain tile type thing, or more like clay, but yeah, it's still in really good shape, holding up nicely, not too chunked or anything like that. And it's a long transition. This whole thing here is probably 30 feet, I would say, before you get to the metal parts on either end, which again are symmetrical. So nice thing. And although the coping is the only decking for this quarter, you see that the dirt berm or whatever on the back of it is relatively high up, so you don't feel like you're going to tip over the backside of it or anything like that. So that's another nice aspect of this park. Now, as we move further east in the park, it does start to slope downward, which kind of matches the grade of the overall park itself. And you've got two large ledge features before you get to the back quarter. The first is a 2-foot tall ledge that skates like an out ledge from either side. So typically I think you'd like ollie up onto the manual pad area and then do a trick out across the ledge. But if you've got pop, you could use that middle manual pad as a gap. That ledge itself is probably about 40 feet long or so, so it's got a lot of room to grind. And then the manual pad area, on one end, this left side, it's about, I would say about 10 inches tall or so. Towards the end, it's more like 12. So you do have a little bit of an increase in the slope going down that way as opposed to coming back this way. So you do have to get some speed coming back around. But relatively short ledge or manual pad, depending on how you want to skate it. And then on the opposite side, you've got another taller ledge. This guy's probably 18 inches tall or so, so it does require some pop to it. The whole thing is, I would say, about 12 feet long. So it does have a nice long grind. Now you can see it's been spray painted on the top, but that's not metal. I don't really get why they did that, but that's just concrete. I suppose the enamel there makes it slide a little bit better, but yeah, it's just raw concrete, or not raw, but painted concrete. Last but not least, to round out the skate park, you've got a 5.5, 6-foot quarter, just probably more like 5.5 feet to turn around on. Pretty standard radius for a quarter pipe, and you've got about 2 feet of decking on top as well. So straightforward enough to do stalls. Granted, not long enough to do a whole lot of grinding across the top, but with it being about 10 feet across, maybe more like 8 feet across, still plenty of room to do some stuff on it. All right, that does it for the Breslin Park. You can see it's a little bit unique and small, but has some fun obstacles in it. So if you're ever in the Louisville area, you get tired of skating the big extreme park, you can come right down the road and skate the smaller park. A little bit more nature oriented, I guess you could say, with all the trees and stuff. But it's a nice little place to come skate. So hope you enjoyed this tour, and we'll see you in the next video.